What does GIFKINS say? Milk. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to our Sunday shows. It's 2023, would you believe it? We're getting on, it's moving along, and we're not going to stop it. So, anyhow, we hope you all had a happy Christmas and a good start to the year. And I hope this year is really good for you. Hopefully we'll get some more box making bits and pieces done so that we can show you something new, and we'll go on with that. But so what we're going to do now is we're going to go right back to basics. And the reason for that is that over the Christmas break, I had an enormous number of people ringing up asking for box plans or sending me emails and so forth looking for box plans. And I generally don't use box plans because I develop them myself. So I sort of can't help by sending written material or anything like that because I just don't get it done. And the other thing is that I don't have a CAD program on any of my computers that could actually draw it. So if you're going to get one, or if you ever get one, it'll always be a hand-drawn one anyway. So, and I've been told that my handwriting's like a doctor's writing, can't read it. So I sort of steer away from it. So Pammy's standing here saying, yeah, true. So we steer away from that sort of thing. So anyway, I thought, what I said to you at the end of the year, I was going to go on and do some wooden hinges for boxes. That's going to happen, but not right away. There's just a few things that I would prefer to tidy up and make a little bit more user-friendly before I actually start showing people how I make box hinges, wooden box hinges. So we're going to stick to basic stuff today and just go on with helping people who don't have the confidence to sort of say walk straight out into the workshop and start building boxes. So the process that I go through now, this is my process. Now it may not be traditional, it may not be the way everybody else does it or anything like that, but this is my way of doing it. And as you can see by the boxes on here, I have a reasonable success at it. So hopefully what we do and what we start with today will get you along and show you a few things on how at least I do them, and maybe you can develop from there. So it's all a matter of confidence. You need to have the confidence to say, okay, I'm going to make a box and the box has got to be for this and this, and this. And then go ahead and go through the process of actually designing the box. Now, when I'm doing the boxes, I generally do light sketches. So I have to look at what sort of things I want to do with the box, right? So my first thought, visually, what's the box going to look like? Now, the visual effect, the aesthetics of a box generally has to be relatively pleasing to your eye. So, and that's the design shape. If you look at the boxes here, and I'll just click over to Pammy, you have a look at the boxes here that I have on the desk, you can see I've got lots of different things that work with that visual effect that I was talking about. Even though you have two boxes exactly the same, they're made exactly the same. There's no difference in the making of the box, but it's the added bits and pieces that we've done to the box that make them look completely different. So this one here, of course, has got a latch on it, but it's also hinged. This one here is a lift-off lid. So there's two different features there that we play with. The thing about the two boxes is they're exactly the same, apart from the different materials, which also give it a different visual effect. So we're looking at something completely different. Now, whether you like it or not, it's up to you. You then go into designing the same box, but with other different features that give it a different visual effect as well. This one here, again, it mimics this box here that has the lift-off lid. So it's a lift-off lid box. It's half the size of that one, so the size is different. And this one here is a lift-off lid as well, but you can see that the lid is actually built a little differently. So just adding different features. And this is where I say to you, think about what you're going to do with the boxes. So when we shift those and we look at this box here, you can do things like frame and panel lid, and this one here has some forest oak in there, very subtle. You can only just see it, but you know it's there once you start looking at it. Again, a box that has different features, chain rather than different hinges again. So again, a different style of box. Visually, it looks quite nice. Now, the golden rule, or the golden ratio, so as Pam was just saying, the golden ratio is something that a lot of people use. Now, if you want to, what I'm going to do is, we had a little look here before, and I can never remember all of this stuff. So the golden ratio, and you can look it up on your phone. Okay, so the golden ratio is basically a mathematical ratio that it's common in nature, and when it's used in design, it fosters organic and natural looking compositions that are aesthetically pleasing to the eye. That's where I keep saying, go back to what looks really, really nice. Now that sounds a little bit airy-fairy to me, but it's what's written in the golden ratio. So look it up, have a bit of a look at it, and see what you can come up with. Now, an easy way of getting to the golden ratio, a piece of A4 paper is about similar size to the golden ratio. So that could be a good size. Now, if you look carefully, you can see that that box is pretty close to the same size as an A4 piece of paper. So visually, that's supposed to look quite nice. The depth of the box is dependent on what you're going to do with the box, but a piece of A4 paper is really good. Now, if you want to stick to the golden ratio, if you want a smaller box, something like this or something like this one here, you measure your long end. So you've got this much to take off it. You take exactly the same off the side of the piece of paper and you will have something that equates to about the golden ratio. So you can stick to that rule as well that way. But there's no harm in breaking it. You don't have to use the golden ratio to get the boxes, and you can see that amongst these boxes here. I've used timber as a visual distraction, you might say, with it on the boxes. You can see different type of lid. Same box, same material, rose mahogany on the bottom, joints are the same, and so forth. This one here, again, broken the rule, but it's a functional box. It's basically designed to hold a dozen golf balls, but that's still quite a nice little box. And then you go into jewellery boxes. This sort of thing where you've got sliding parts and componentry. So if I went into explaining all of this stuff, how all this sort of stuff works, I'd probably confuse you a whole lot. So we're going to go back and we're going to sort of talk about the things that we actually are going to do. Now, I'm going to shift all these boxes now. So if I just get these out of the way, I've got to find somewhere to put them. I was given a couple of wine glasses, and somebody said, can you make a display case for the wine glasses? And I thought, that's a damn good idea for a show. So that's what we're going to do. And I'm going to go through the process, and I'm going to explain as we go along how we get around it. Okay, so these are the wine glasses. And as you can see, they're quite tall. So they're quite big. They've got the logo on the front of them. Just happens to be Coffs Harbour Golf Club, but it's not an advertisement for the golf club, but the glasses would look really nice in a display case. Now, they wouldn't look too good in something like this. It's just not going to work. So we'll make a nice case to fit those. Now, the decision I have to make is, do I put them side by side like that? Or do I put one this way and one that way? Now, if I put them together like that, I've got a narrower box. Okay, it'll be the same width. If I put them this way up, my box has got to be a little bit wider. Okay, so they're decisions we'll make as we go along. I'll just put those aside for the minute. Now, we've got the type of box that we're going to do. So what we have to do then is come up with some sketches. So, whiteboard. As I said, this is the way that I will do it. I generally do this thing and then I'll discard it. Because once I have a version of the box, I can usually make another one pretty much straight away because I remember how it's done. But if you don't remember, then it's always a good idea to make notes. So with your whiteboard, have a pad and a couple of pens and pencils and make some notes as you go along. I'll put that there, I'll put this here, and we'll start looking at different things. So the idea is, first of all, get your design right. Get your design of the box right before you start looking at material. Now, I've got a whole range of material here. I'm going to talk about that in a second, and we'll cut some up for you. So, concept ideas and sketches. Now, people say to me, when I draw a sketch, when I draw a box, I'll draw a three-dimensional box. Okay, so I'll draw myself a little box like this, and people go, I can't draw that. I can't draw that. How do I going to draw that? I don't know how to draw. That is a big thing. If you aren't confident with what you're sketching and you lose your place, you then have to figure out how to do it so you don't lose your place. So there's nothing wrong with doing this. Draw a rectangle, because that's what it's going to be. And if I draw in the goblets, pretty ordinary goblets, I don't know that I drink out of them. You don't have to be prescriptive about how it works, but that's what we're going to look at. We're going to have a door on the front of it. Okay, and I'm going to have perspex in the front of it so that we can do it. Now, it'll probably need some sort of latching system. It'll probably need some sort of hinging system. And as you can see, very simple sketches. There's nothing fancy about it. Now, we want a bit of depth to it, so it's just a matter of going there, and now we have a box. So, very, very simple, very easy, and not that hard to get your head around if you draw it yourself. So you can see it's quite a simple little drawing. It's nothing fancy, and you don't have to be fancy to get your results. Right, I'm going to transfer that using my technique into a workable drawing, a workable plan. So what I can do, I'll just remove that. turn myself around this way, and you can imagine that being a page in a book, just like this. So it's landscape. So up here, just a quick sketch. Okay, so I've got something that I can visually look at, and as you can see, it's not very good, but it gives me a picture. Okay, so the glasses will sit in here, I'll be in there, so forth. Right, so I want a front view of it. So if I draw a front view, and I'm not going to use a ruler, I'm just going to draw the front view. This is what my box is going to look like. So that's the thickness of my material. And I haven't put any measurements there. I haven't done it to scale or anything like that. But that's what the front of the box is going to look like. Then I want the top of the box to look at the top of the box. So the top of the box is going to be like this, right? And of course that's on there. And we may add on the back at the back of it, right? And we may add on the door. Okay, now I want a side view of it. Okay, now normally I would put the side view up the front here, so I'll do that, just so I'll remove that for a sec. So here's my side view. Okay, and thickness of my material, add on the back, add on the door. It's going to have a couple of hinges here. Okay, so the hinges will be here. Okay, so how we have that. So let's go back to our sketch. And add in some thickness. And as you can see, very basic. There's nothing fancy about it whatsoever. If I put in the image of the glass would look like this. Okay, so that's what it would look like. So quite easy to come up with a working plan. All I need to do now is put in some measurements. So I will need to know how high it's going to be. So I need to know that height. I need to know the width of the box, right? And I need to know how deep the box is going to be. Okay, now I don't have to do all the measurements on each of the drawings. I can do them over here if I wish to, but at least I've got something where I'm starting to build a picture. You're starting to build your design. So let's go back to our thing here, and we look at our glasses. So the height of the glass from bottom to top, I've got 250 millimeters. Okay, so my inside measurement has to be around 250 millimeters. Now add on the thickness of the material and you'll get an outside size of material. Now I want to talk about material in a second, whether we use 12 mil or 10 mil or what sort of material we're going to use. We'll talk about that in a second. We'll need to know a width, so inside diameter, let's write that on here. Inside height was 250 mil. Okay, so we're starting to build the picture. The glasses, if I put them side by side, we don't want them touching each other. So really hard to measure them like that. So this is an easy way of doing that. I just lay them on there on something so they don't roll around. and put a square on this side, and I'll get another square on the other side. And that will give me a measurement between those two. So 185 millimetres. Oh, gee, that could be dangerous. Could have broken one. So 185 millimetres inside here. So inside, I've done it in black, 180 mil. Okay, so I've got an inside measurement of 250 by 180 millimetres. So that's basically what I've got to do. Now all I need to do is work out the depth of the box so that it's, I've got that through there. How am I going to do this one? It'll be the same size as one glass. Okay. So the depth of the box is going to be 90 mil. So inside here, 90 mil. Okay, now that looks very confusing. And there's probably 100 other ways of doing it that make it look a whole lot easier. But like I said, this is the way I would do it. So I've got my sizes, I've got a beginning to a plan. I've got something that's going to happen, and what I need to do now is I have to start looking at different timbers, the way I'm going to put my timbers together, what sort of things that I need to do, what thickness material, all those sorts of things. So on my piece of paper here, just going to write out a few different things. If you can't remember things, write them down. So, inside sizes, height, 250 mil, width, that's from one side of the box to the other, 180 mil, and depth is 90 mil. Okay, so that gives me a beginning. Now, let's get this aside and we'll talk about some materials. Just put that aside. Now, what I have here, Pam is going to scan in on our timbers here. I've selected a whole bit, some bits and pieces out of my rack. What I have to do is I have to work out what sort of combination I'm going to have. Now, do I have something like this? So I can use this as a visual. Do I have a door that's like that with the glass front on it and a different coloured door on a dark frame, so that when we open and close the cabinet, that it's nice and dark on the inside, and so do we have that one? Do I use this one? Okay, where everything is the same. There's no variation in that. You can imagine that's a piece of Perspex. So you've got something to look at. Another aspect could be, do I add some feet on it so they can lay like that, and then you can open it up to get the glasses out, or there's some features. See, what we're doing now is we're starting to sort of generate different ideas on how to get things done. Now, some people say, God, that's just too complicated. It's too far. Just make it easy. I'm afraid it'll never be easy. Now, here's another version. We can do this with a latch on it, where the door is actually fitted with very small hinges. So we've got different things that we can do with the box, and a way to do the box. So all of the boxes that you've made in the past, if you've made a few, could be the source for the use of your materials. Now, adding your materials. I have here different materials that I could add. A white timber and a dark timber. So a combination. So I've got jacaranda and I've got walnut. What about silver ash? So this is where you start to sort of decide something pinkish. Does that fit in with the colours here? Is that a better fit? So you're starting to look at different ways of using your timbers. This is rose mahogany. Those two go together. Do those two go together? They don't go together very nicely, in my opinion. So they look quite nice together. Maybe that looks better together. So different things will work for you. You could go looking for, and this is where your personal tastes come in handy, you could come into stuff that's got a lot of figure in it. This is rose mahogany, but it's right out on the sap edge of the bark of the tree, and you can see the difference in the two different types of timber. This one has lots of figure in it. It has all of these markings here. It's got blue mould in it, which can be a feature as well. You can often find camphor laurel looks quite nice with that as well. So there's that combination probably won't work because this fits into that category a little bit. So I probably wouldn't use those two in a combination. I might use these two in a combination. You can see I've got the reds and the pinks, and we've got the speckled look of the silky oak. So choosing the timber is not an easy task at times. So the idea is to do something with it. Now, top and bottom, we want to add a different bit of colour. So a piece of something that looks a little bit like this. Now this is red banksia. It's not a very common timber. But as you walk around or as you move around various places looking for timber, you'll find little pieces like this that you grab hold of when you can. So that and that might be a good combination, which doesn't look too bad. So maybe it needs enhancement with something else. So maybe a little bit of jacaranda and the combination of the three timbers would work. So we have you have tastes. In your tastes, might be not the same as mine, but they might be also quite nice. Now, so we choose our timbers. The next thing to work on is what thickness material. How big is the box going to be? It's going to be quite big. Does it need to be heavy material for such a light object? You know, it's a glass, and I don't know if a heavy material will actually look or make the glasses stand up a little bit, stand out. So thick material up the sides, probably not. I'll probably go to 10mm material. It doesn't need to be a heavy box because, as you can see, it's just got a couple of display glasses in. It's not something where the glasses are going to be carried around. It's going to be something where the glasses will probably sit in a cupboard and you'll bring it out at special occasions for whatever. So that's the idea. Now, if they were solid crystal, well, then you've got to think about, again, a different materials. So, combinations. What do you think, Pammy? What do you reckon we should use? Some of that as the top and bottom.
Sides.
Sides?
Yeah, or the outside frame.
Outside frame?
And
okay.
then that for the floor.
This in the bottom?
Yeah.
Okay, so...
Look, just as a first thought.
Just as a first thought, okay. So...
Or maybe just the back.
The two sides?
That's what I'm saying.
Maybe that for the back.
I'm just thinking that maybe you need to give a bit of light.
Okay.
Light to show up the glasses. Whatever's in the back, Yeah, that's pretty. That is really pretty.
Okay, so that can be a back panel.
Yeah.
Okay, it's wide enough for the back panel because you've got to think that you've got to have the width if you're going to do it that way. So the side frames can be a combination of, okay,
That for the sides, like the front, the side frame.
outside side frames,
Yeah.
and that for the front and the
back.
The front's going to be a perspex door.
That's right, but the frame of the door.
The frame of the door. Okay. All right. So, decision has been made. We'll put that aside. What we need to do is make our silky oak. So I've got 2 bits of silky oak.
Very pretty.
And you can see the various of the colours. So if I turn them around so they're like that, it's probably nicer. Just shift these out of the way. And we'll go with that. Now, the inside depth of the box has to be 90 millimetres. What have I got here? I've got 100 here. So that's adequate for what I want to do. But what we have to think about now is we're going to dovetail the top and bottom, and we need to make sure that the material will fit on our jig or give us the right dovetails. So we have to think about that as well. So
these glasses, Cole, are going to have a firm fit with very little movement in the interior of the box.
correct, yes. So what Pammy was just saying there, I don't know if you heard that, but what we're trying to do is get the glasses to fit firmly in the box so they don't rattle around, okay, and they're going to be nice and snug in the box. So the maximum depth of the box has got to be about 92 millimetres, and we'll take it from there. So let's get my pencil out and we'll do some more sketching. Okay. I hope you're keeping up with this because it's to a lot of people this is dead boring. Okay. So if the inside measurement from there to there,
It's not showing up very well.
okay.
But keep going though.
Is 90, say 90, sorry, from here to here, so inside across there, is say 92 millimetres, because we have a thickness of material. Okay, so we want one piece there, and then we've got thickness here as well. So 250 plus 20, a little bit of height in it, so we'll add 25 mil. So 275 from the outside of here to here, so that's going to be the length of the bit, 275. We've got 92 wide, and from there to there, we've got 180, and we want a little bit of movement so that we can put in some fixtures to actually hold the glasses in place. So I'm going to take that out to say 200 mil. Add an extra 20 mil. And that will leave me room so that if I want to put in some sort of fixture into it, I can put a fixture in here that's got a cutout in it so that I can fit the glass in. So I can put that in there and then one at the bottom as well. So it gives us a little bit of room for that. So 275. 275. I was just thinking about that again. So I've got to go back to 275. And this is how I get around have I got the right measurement? Is it the right length? So if I measure 275 here, that's going to be the outside size of it. And I get myself another piece of material and I just sit it on top like that. Because we're going to cut dovetails, remember? Very basic. And I've got 255. That gives me 5 or 6 mil, so they'll fit nice and neatly in the box by doing that. So that measurement's not too bad. I'm actually going to make a little bit more so that I can just give me a bit more freedom in the box. So 270, what do I have? Height at 275 I had, which is there. Let's go to 280, and that will give me the 2 sides. Okay, so I can actually cut that, and I'll cut 2 of them, and that will be the 2 sides. So over to the saw. Now to make sure that they're exactly the same, I'll set up a stop. Use my radar. Need a clamp. There's a whole heap of questions here, Pammy. Okay, so I have 2 sides. And I need 200 wide. I think I should have enough here to give me 200 wide. And my inside for that is not enough, so I'm going to have to go to say 210. And that will give me extra material for cutting the joints. So over to the saw. I'll just cut these. Again, adjust your stop. Ears on. Okay, as you can see, I haven't even bothered about fiddling around with the perfect shape or the golden rule. All I've done is made something to fit my glasses. And so I'm going to end up with a box that's a bit like that. Now when you put this together, as you can see, what I've done is I've just sat those up on their edge, right? And I've put the top and the bottom on it. Now that is not going to work very well because it won't give you a true indication, but if you bring it up to the side here, and that will give you a better indication of how big the box is going to be. So we're working on inside diameter, remember? And when we put our 2 glasses in there, don't want to break these. You can see just by doing that, you can see I've actually got a little bit of movement in the box. I've got a space in the box to do things, and I can actually take a little bit of material off the side of those panels. They're 100mm wide, because that will make the box look a little bit deep. So we might have a little bit of a play with that and use the excess as a door frame. Okay, so that will fit quite nicely. Okay. Now what we need to do is just make sure I've got all my measurements written out. So I had these at 210. And this one here at 280. And I haven't got this measurement here yet, so what I want to do is show you, I'm going to use A10 because I'm using 10mm material. This is my A10 jig, and this is how I get, or I can get, a measurement. Now I'm not cutting a joint in here, so I don't have to add material that I'm going to take away, or add for material that I'm going to take away. All I'm going to do is cut straight joints for it, and I'm going to add the back on, and I'm going to add the door on. So the easiest way to work out how wide your piece of material has to be is to sit it on the jig. Now, if I sit that there and just measure that up against, as you can see, I'm on the pin side, so that I'm right on the edge of there, what I can do is just put a mark here, and that will give me 1, 2, 3, 4 pins, right? So if I measure that, I've got 85mm. What was the depth of the glass was 90mm, so it's a little bit short. So what I have to do is alter it a little bit. So let's just think about that. It's not going to fit in there with that. I think what I might do is leave it at 100mm and just rearrange how I adjust it and sit it up here. Because I could probably put that on there, or I could do a half joint. Half joint probably. Which means, when we go around to the other side, we can do that. Okay, so that's going to give me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. Nice. Now, that might not be right. Might not work. So, let's go to a different jig.
What about the H10?
Now, well, let's go to the A. H10 won't work because material's right on the outside edge of it. Right. So, let's go to...
Good idea.
A20. That'll give me 3 dovetails. Let's see what it does on the pin side. That will probably work.
That's not
now, the A20, I'm using an A20 standard here. That was made many, many years ago. We don't make it anymore. It is now a version of the jumbo jig. Let's see what that does. So that's going to work there. Now, Jumbo A is the same template as this one. Okay, so if you want to use that or go into various things, alter your material thickness, alter your material width, but I'm going to use our A20. and build myself a box frame. So how are we going for time? 15 minutes. That's not going to work. So the first thing I want to do now is I'm going to dress my material up. I want to get the material sorted so that it's ready for joints, which means I'm going to sand all of the inside and outside of it, or the inside of it anyway, so that I don't have to fiddle around with it later. What I want to do with my sketching now is think about what to do with the glasses and how to make something that will hold the glasses in place. So what I need is I need a piece of material that will fit across here with a cutout in it that will attach inside the box. So I'm going to need a couple of pieces of material. So I'll need probably one there. Have to think about this. Or maybe just one up that high. What do you think, Pammy?
Yeah, just a little bit lower down.
Yeah?
Just about there, yeah.
About there. So just the one so that it holds the glasses in place as they sit in the box.
I think it only needs one.
Only needs the one?
Yeah.
Okay, so I need a piece of material for that. So what I might use with that is I might do that with a piece of little piece of red stuff. I might just use a little piece of cedar. It could be a good combination with that and the back panel. So I need a piece of this to go inside the box. So we have to think about that as we go along. We'll wait till we get the box frame done, yeah, and take it from there. So now setting up the jig. I hope those of you who are finding getting designing done have been able to follow what we're doing today. Anybody, any questions or anything there?
Oh, mostly just comments.
Just comments? Okay, let's set the jig up. The other thing I have to do, set the jig up and do a I've got to put new backing boards on here because these ones are pretty ordinary. You can see the backing boards. For those of you who haven't changed the backing boards, you can see how mine have deteriorated. You need to make sure that you get some nice fresh clean backing boards. Don't alter your shims just yet. And wouldn't you know it, I have to go into the cupboard to actually get backing boards out.
Jason wants to know if you've allowed for the back panel. If it just attaches on the outside.
Yeah, the back panel is just going to, yeah. Jason, back panel is going to be added onto the back of it. So what I'm going to do is I'll recess a piece into the back so that it's actually part of the framework of the back of it and gives it support. But for the moment, all I want to do is get the frame made, and Okay, red always on the right. And then I'm going to cut myself some test joints. Okay, so that material is the same as this other piece of silky oak, and I had none left over because that was the perfect length, that piece. So what I'm going to do is cut myself a couple of little bits of scrap, and I'll cut myself some joints and see how they work. So this is the same width, so we're working with the same width, same thickness, and we just go over to the saw and cut myself a couple of bits of scrap. So hang fire there for 2 secs. A little bit of chalk.
Tony Davies wants to know, can you actually use the back of a backing board, of a used backing board, as opposed to using both sides of it, top and bottom? He's actually inquiring about whether you can flip it.
Okay, really good question, Tony. The backing board has countersunk holes in one side. If you flip it over, you're not countersunk. If you want to countersink it, you can do that, but you'll have to do it by hand because it doesn't come on the thing. But the other problem is that once you start cutting away here, you're losing all the support at the back edge of the router bit. So once you start cutting this way, you're going to start getting yourself into bits of trouble. So it's not advisable to use the back edge. You can use the top and the bottom, that's not a problem. You can see I've done that with these ones here, but not at the back. I wouldn't do that myself. You can give it a go if you like and see how you feel about it, but I probably wouldn't do that.
You might get away with it if you're using your H10.
Yes, you might.
You're not going very deep, like it's a shallow dovetail.
Yes, you might get away with it. Okay. Now I've got material over 100 millimetres, or over 90 millimetres I should say, so it's always a good idea to use 2 clamps. Forgot to put the markings on. Okay.
So what's the thickness of the timber for the frame of this glasses box cop?
The material I got at the moment is 10 mil.
10 mil.
Okay, so
good.
If I use anything lighter, I think the box will be too flexible being the size it is. So it's always a good idea to give yourself a little bit of strength, but you don't want to overweigh it, have something that's so heavy that it's difficult to pick up, or heavy.
But you also want something that design-wise actually looks in proportion to the size of the box.
That's correct. You want to be able to make sure that it still looks in proportion as you go. You don't want something that's really, really thin or really, really chunky heavy, unless of course that's the sort of style of thing you like. You'll notice I'm just doing a little bit of maintenance here as I go. Adjusting my height. Okay, so we're good to go. But remember, these are just test joints. Just grab myself a pair of earmuffs. Okay. Ears on, everybody.
pitch squealing?
That's squealing. I changed the brushes in the router the other day, and the squealing is the new ones just bedding themselves in, unfortunately. So I hope it didn't hurt anybody's ears, but as you can see, we have that.
You might need to use the mute button.
Might need to. That was a bit dark, a bit heavy, that one.
It was awful.
You need to put some earmuffs on too. Hope that didn't disturb too many people with that sound. Change my earmuffs. Change my route a bit. Okay, I'm going to hit the mute button. I have one here as soon as I start it. So okay, so I'm back on the air. I hope it's pretty high pitched squeal, that thing, until it beds itself in. Let's see what we've got. Okay, so I have a perfect fit. So the top of the box, the side of the box will be that way. So you can see the dovetails will be showing at the top. I've got material at both ends that I can use to attach things to. So the back will get fitted onto the inside edge. So I'm going to route out a little bit of that once I've got the frame put together and fit the back, and I clean up the tops and bottoms. So that'll be the top, that'll be the bottom or the side of the panel. So perfect fit. So I've got my jig set up ready to go. So next week what we'll do is I will get started on building the frame. I may do a little bit more work on the design and show it to you when we've got it, and that way at least you'll have a bit of an idea of what we're up against. But if you're struggling with your design work, please persevere with it, and you will find that eventually you're going to get a picture that, as you go, you're going to build up a picture in your mind as to what you really want and what you want the box for. Now you may need, I'm putting a couple of glasses in this box. If you want to put in, if you're building boxes for medals or watches or any other items, jewellery and so forth, figure out what happens on the inside after you get your framework done. But use the size of the objects that you're going in the box as the basis for building your frame. So that's what has to happen. The inside bits can be put in afterwards, but the outside part of the box has to be the right size. So it's just a square or a rectangular box. So think about that when you're building your designs. Okay, so that'll do for today. I will build the box next week and we'll get started on putting the whole lot together. I'll dress down some more of the material that I've got there so that I've got bits and pieces. If we make a mistake, we can rebuild. Okay, so think about that. And one thing that I didn't say early on in the piece was that if you do make a mistake, and I'll get two of my boxes and just show you. If you do make a mistake, you can always do something to rectify it. Don't ever throw your material away until it's beyond repair. Now, that box was the original box that I started making 10 years ago. Now, I made a whole heap of errors in the process of actually getting this thing up into a usable and a workable box. The mistakes ended up that size box. It's the same height, same width, half the size. So I didn't actually waste anything. I just used it for a different size box and made something out of it, and it became another part of our box collection. So don't throw your bits away if you do make an error, and don't be stressed if you do make an error. Timber is hard enough to get hold of, and it's hard and it's relatively expensive, so you don't want to be wasting it by making a mistake and then turfing it. Make a mistake, redesign. Think through your designs. So, for those of you who have just popped on, don't forget to subscribe, and you can get on to the rest of our library. And we will give you a reminder if you ring the bell. So that will happen next week, and we'll get on with doing the others. So have a good week, everybody, and I will see you all next Sunday.